Everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to DingoTalk, where we explore the experiences that make us who we are. Here's your host, Carlo Guadagnino.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is DingoTalk. Our guest this week is the number 22 team in the preseason poll from the Susquehanna University Riverhawks, Coach Tom Perkovich. Coach Perkovich is going to talk to us about obviously how he got here from his two-sport playing days back at Canisius all the way down to taking the job here in 2015. And then we talk a little bit about Bridgewater, because that's where Susquehanna goes this week as college football kicks off. Don't forget, at the end of this episode, Serenity and I will be picking 10 games, see who has the better guessing ability with football knowledge. If you're watching us on YouTube, we really appreciate it. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else that you get your podcast, really appreciate you as well. But without further ado, and if you want to follow us on the social medias, hit the Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. The only one that's different is the Instagram page. It's dingo_talk. But without further ado, this is Coach Perkovich. What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is DingoTalk. My guest this week is the head football coach of Susquehanna University's football program, Coach Tom Perkovich. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Coach, we're going to do this the same way we do every week. I'm going to put you in the time machine. I'm going to take you back to your playing days, and we're going to work our way through. So, in 1999, how do you find yourself 18 minutes down the road or up the road to Canisius College?
Well, I was a three-sport athlete in high school, and as I was looking at the college process, I come from a family extremely blue collar. My parents never went to college. I was actually the first person, at least on my dad's side of the family, to even graduate from college. So immediate family, didn't really have a lot of guidance. Looked at some schools, went through the recruiting process. Growing up, I'm 6'5", so small town. Everyone thinks I'm gonna be a basketball player. Kind of fell in love with football going into end of junior year, senior year. Thought that was my better path to go down for myself. Started looking at schools. Obviously, thought I wanted to be an engineering major, which kind of got me probably too focused on some schools and not broad enough, to, unless you're 100% gung ho and you have the great test scores and all those things. Sometimes you need to, keep your options open. But I never had that guidance from anyone else to tell me that. And so, kind of honed in. Thought about Union College in Schenectady, New York. Kind of fell through financial aid wise with them. Canisius, which was down the road for me, recruited me really hard. Actually, one of the assistant coaches went to my high school. He was older than me, but obviously had that connection with him. And it ended up being the most affordable place for me too. So that was a huge, huge factor on top of being able to play football there. And then I thought I had a chance to maybe, walk on the basketball team, which I ended up doing. Went there, it wasn't the greatest experience, to be brutally honest. We won 4 games in 4 years, lost 24 games in a row in football. They dropped the program at the end of my senior season, wow. But being a two-sport guy, kept me going, kept me there. Pretty loyal person. So, I wish it was a different deal, but went from tight end, played tight end in high school, played tight end my freshman year of college, and then moved to the offensive line my last 3 years, played left tackle, started every game. Ended up being able to get, an award there, All-American and first team All-Conference on a 2-8 football team. So, we did the best we could. We were trying to make the program better, but unfortunately they made that decision. And then, post college, got right into college coaching, immediately there. And that's been my passion and love and profession for the last 20 years now. So
now, why was Muhlenberg, And am I saying that correctly? Muhlenberg?
Muhlenberg.
Muhlenberg. Yep. Why was Muhlenberg where you ended up? Because it's not just a first stop. It's kind of you come back to it before coming to Susquehanna.
Yeah. So my college coach was very good friends with the head coach at Muhlenberg, Mike Donnelly. And then when I student taught, I was ended up being a physical education major. Didn't finish the engineering. Ended up going down the coaching route, physical education. And when I was student teaching, it was I don't know if it was just fate or luck or whatever it was. One of the guys that I'd met during student teaching, he was actually the head track coach, and I helped coach the throwers. As you know, when I was student teaching at a school named Depew High School outside Buffalo, he and the head coach at Muhlenberg had worked together back in the day at the University of Buffalo. Mm-hmm. And so when I said, "Hey, I'm looking at this job," a guy named Brian Wilson's his name. He was he's like, "Well, hey, I know that guy. I'll give him a call for you." So I kind of had two things working there. Interviewed for a job, actually didn't get the job. And then maybe like a week later, a guy left the Muhlenberg staff. They called me up middle of the summer and offered me the job. And, the rest is kind of history. I was a running back coach there for 2 years. We won 2 championships and went to the national playoffs and just fell in love with it. And then got lucky enough to get, to Holy Cross. And I don't really count Cole. I never spent a season at Colgate, but it was 4 months. And
I was going to ask you, was that more of like a spring ball? You were there for spring ball, but then the job at Muhlenberg opened back up.
It did, okay. Yeah. So got to Colgate, loved it there. One of my college coaches actually was on staff there, helped me get there, and I had a hard decision. It's one of those crossroads as a coach. You're at that level. You're at a great place with it, like where they do it right. And then I had a chance to be a full-time coach the offensive line, which is what I played and what I wanted to coach back at Muhlenberg. Obviously I was comfortable with those guys. I ended up getting the job. It was a little later than I would have liked, but ended up back there and then spent the next 9 years and worked my way up to the offensive coordinator, for the last 5 before landing here at Susquehanna.
Now, and why was Susquehanna the place that felt right for you?
Yeah, I mean, we were in the same conference. So Muhlenberg and Susquehanna were in the same conference at that time. For those that don't know a lot, which is most people, about Susquehanna, we've been playing football here since 1892. So you've got a tradition, you've got people that care about football. We have a football-only stadium. There's a lot of support for the program, even though they maybe weren't winning as many games as they would like. I thought there was a great foundation. I thought the campus is drop dead gorgeous. Facilities are unbelievable. I just felt like we could sell that. We have a really, really strong academic reputation, especially in our business school. And young men like business. That's a big major. Yeah. Guys looking at schools. I just thought we had a lot of the right things to be able to sell, to be able to recruit the right people, and be successful. I felt like the administration was behind it, and I learned that, in college, Carlo, right? Like, I went to a college where, just being honest, they didn't care about football. Football was a way to fill beds. They didn't support us. We took one bus to football games 9 hours away. It was, I vowed I'd never be in a situation like that again. And when I looked at Susquehanna, I knew that from what I learned from those other stops, Muhlenberg and Holy Cross and places, and I knew that this place could be special. And I felt that in my heart, and that's kind of went with the gut. Got lucky enough to get the job because I know it was a pretty big pool of people that wanted the job, and got lucky, and and it's been a great ride, kind of ever since 2015.
Now, Coach, this is where I think we're going to get a lot of information more about Susquehanna, more about football. So the 2022 season was the first, if my stats are right, 9-0. You guys went. It was the first undefeated regular season since '86.
I know, yeah.
10-0, correct. Sorry. It's the first unbeaten regular season since '86, first playoff appearance since '09, and you guys won the Centennial Conference. You're no longer in the Centennial Conference. You're now over in the Landmark. So let's talk briefly about last season. Just recap it for us, and then we'll talk more about what this new endeavor is. I think today was a big day for you. It's the opening media day for the Landmark Conference. So talk to us a little bit about last season.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a number of years here. 2019, we went 10-1. Unfortunately, didn't make the playoffs. COVID comes, kind of slows you down a little bit, right on the momentum of that season. 2021 comes, we're rolling. We're 7-0. We play the best two teams in the conference and just don't play our best football. Unfortunately, lose those games, and then I think we had the right nucleus of people back in 22. Had a lot of fifth-year guys. I think we had 6 fifth-year guys back, including the quarterback. A 3-time first-team All-League defensive lineman, an outstanding center who ended up winning the Remington Award as the best center in the country. Our kicker, who's broken every record here, and just some of those core leader guys. And just, I always say this, and I learned this a long time ago, when your best players are your hardest workers, you got a shot to win a lot of games, right? And we had that. We had the leadership. We had guys that had played a ton of football for us, 4-year starters, 3-year starters. They knew what was at stake. They came back to try to win the championship. We had come close. We had unfortunately failed a couple times, and I felt like they really focused the team. Our coaching staff did a nice job of getting them ready to play week by week. The one biggest thing I think was in 21, I felt like we got ahead of ourselves a little bit. We were rolling. We come into Hopkins a little bit and we lose the Hopkins game and it was over. I mean, the mental part of it, we just felt like was done, even though we still had a lot to play for.
Yeah.
And that's a learning moment for me, obviously, as a head coach in a big game like that. And I felt, we got ahead of ourselves a bit. And so, this in 22 was all about just stay in the moment, week to week, day by day, control what we can control. We knew the big games, but, there were other big games, and we had our hands full with a couple opponents, more so because of us, in my opinion. But, we ended up, beating Hopkins in a thriller at home during homecoming. And then Muhlenberg were down 10 in fourth quarter. It just showed the resolve of our players to come back on the road, win that game by running the football too, And so we, it just showed how poised I thought our guys were compared to the year before and things we had talked about and worked on. But they were, as close of a group of guys I've ever seen in 20 years. Just how they played for each other, how hard we played. They wanted it so bad, and it didn't end the way we wanted. We came out in the playoff game and just didn't play our game. It's just one of those days in football. We didn't have our best stuff. We were dealing with some injuries during the week that kind of hurt, I think, our preparation. I don't think I handled it great. So it's a learning experience, but I know I had a senior tell me after, because we played in 4 bowl games, from 17 on.
Yeah.
4 straight, bowl games. And I had a senior tell me, Coach, I'd rather lose in the playoffs than win another bowl game. And for me, that was like kind of a moment where, okay, like it almost was a relief for me, that he came back for his 5th year. He made it work. His kid's going to be a doctor. And so he just said it that way. And I was like, you know what? Even though today didn't go our way, that makes a lot of sense to me. And one of the reasons I do this, and, it put it in perspective. I don't love it. I think about the one loss every day, and every minute. It's just how I operate. But, I thought it was a season that could really springboard us forward and teach our guys how to win big games and help us just continue the trend we've been on, the last 5 years, and especially the last 3 years, have been,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of the best in program history, and some of the best in the country. So, we're looking to continue that. But it was just an amazing season all around and a ton of fun to be a part of.
Well,
Sure.
and it's interesting you bring up some of the best in the country. D3.com put their yearly preseason poll out. You guys come in at number 22, so congratulations there. What is the expectation from you going into 2023, especially with this and embarking in this inaugural season of the Landmark?
A lot of unknown. A lot of unknown for us. Obviously, though, I talked about the fifth-year players.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think we have a lot of good players back. We've got our best receiver back. We've got our two safeties back, D linemen, linebackers back. A few guys up front. The whole receiving core is back. I think we're going to be okay at running back. Quarterback's the big one we have to figure out. But I think we have a good nucleus to get that done. But we got to get it done. We got to figure kind of our identity, and how this new team's going to be. And I said to the guys in the spring, I think the leadership, figuring out the leadership. When you have guys that are fifth-year guys, those are multiple year leaders, right? We had multiple year captains. You don't have that now. We gotta make sure that the guys that are with us are leading us the right way, and bringing along the young players and getting those guys in that we might need to lean on, because we did lose, a fair amount of starters. So that's the uneasiness, I think. The other part is we're going to play a lot of new opponents. For my 7 seasons I've been here, we've played literally the same 10 opponents every year. So you really get to know the ins and outs, who they are, the game planning. This year we open with, our first 5 opponents are people we've never played, or 6 opponents maybe.
Yeah.
So we've got to figure that out. As a staff, we got to be really prepared. We're on the road for the first 3 weeks, due to an error, and so we got some serious travel that we got to work through, and we've got to make sure that we're ready for that mentally. But it's neat, right? We get to go on the road, we get to stay in a hotel, we get to play football, which we haven't done in my time, which is kind of cool for our players. We get to play some new opponents, go to some new areas. I'm excited for the challenge. I think our players are excited for the challenge. Obviously we don't have to win 9 games anymore to win the championship. You got to play 6 games. It's a little different, right? But our goal is to get back to the national playoffs and play better and be a better representative of our conference than we were a year ago.
Now, what was is there a reasoning behind the move from the Centennial to the Landmark?
Yeah, so we were an affiliate member in the Centennial.
Okay.
So we were not a full member in all sports. Landmark Conference, all of our sports here at Susquehanna have been in for, I think, 15 years now.
Okay.
And with that rule change where it went from having 7 to 6 last January, that's obviously spurred a lot of dialogue. We were able to grab Lycoming and Wilkes. Now we play Lyco, that's a trophy game for us, but Wilkes is, so those teams are coming in as full members. And obviously we added Keystone, but we have the 6 to get the automatic qualifier, and we don't have to wait because the conference already exists. So what it does is it puts us all sports here under the same umbrella of Landmark, which is good. I'm going to miss the Centennial. I mean, I started coaching in 2003 in the Centennial, right? So I don't really know anything else, but there's still going to be some familiar faces for us. And but yeah, that was the biggest catalyst. There was some voting and moving for expansion of the Landmark, and then once that expansion kind of was possible, I think a lot of it built around being able to have football and have that automatic qualifier for those teams to come along, and you roll with the changes, and we utilize that rule change, I think, to a positive for us, and to get an AQ. We steal an at-large, in the playoffs from everybody else, but that's for the management council committee to figure out how to figure out the playoffs. So,
Coach, before I ask you about your philosophy, I want to ask you, over your 20 years, what's the biggest change in the game?
biggest change in the game, I'd have to say recruiting.
Okay.
The social media aspect of recruiting, the access. When I started, it was VHS and DVD, man. You're
Yep. With a
driving around
highlight.
to, driving around to high schools. They're full games. They're not highlights, or maybe they're highlights. You got the kids' best couple games on a VHS right in the back of your car, DVD, or the coach is going to send it to you. You got to hound guys to send it. It's so turnkey now. You can get to the kid easy with text message and DMs, and I just think the access to players, and the ability for players to have, back 20 years ago, I mean, the kid would have, 5, maybe 8 schools. Like
Yeah.
he'd be honed in on it. Right now, I mean, the way these guys are bombarded and how easy it is for people to access kids. I think they still get down to those number of schools, but I think it's a lot more for them to manage and try to figure out and navigate the process. I think the process is a little more jumbled at times for certain kids, depending on, if they're not sure what they're looking for out of the school, academics, if they're very vague or they're undecided on majors, like you can go down a rabbit hole, I think, pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there's confusion on that end, but, I think just the recruiting, I think it's a little more nonstop. It's a little bit more of that at times, but I think that's probably the difference. I think kids want to still get coached hard. They want to work, they want to do the work. They want to be a part of, winning. They want to get great, get a good education. They want people to mentor them. They want all the things that I wanted when I was playing, and they care about each other and they care about teammates and stuff like that. So I don't think the kids changed, guys, people say that. I think kids are kids. They're still the same. But I think the biggest thing is just, that I think the recruiting is just very different than it was in that time.
Now, how would you say well, before we go there, I'll stay on the recruiting topic. Can you put us in the room with you and a recruit and kind of let us into what are you looking for in a recruit? How's that conversation go?
Yeah, we look for obviously we look for talent, right? I think that's a foregone conclusion. We're watching film, we're thinking of guys who can play for us or can't play for us. We're trying to figure those out. But the biggest things is I talk to families. We're looking for 2 things. One, we're looking for a guy who wants a great education. He cares about his academics. He understands the value of the degree. That, I mean, 96% of Susquehanna students yearly are employed within 6 months. So that's a selling point for us, especially if you're a business major. It's higher than that. And the other part is we want guys that have a burning desire to play football in college. We do not want you're dipping your toe in. If I go to college and they have football, I'm going to play. Guys that we're not looking for guys that, I tell this to families flat out. We're going to ask you what schools are you looking at? If the list is pretty similar to us and maybe some Division twos that you're sniffing on, then good. You're probably a guy that's our guy. But if you're looking at us and some other schools, but you're also looking at Penn State to be a student, or you're looking at West Virginia and Maryland and Rutgers, and we know you can't play there, and you can't play there.
Yeah,
we're gone, man. We're going to run for the hills. You're not as committed to being a college athlete and committing to playing football, in our opinion. We might offer you a walk-on spot. That gives us the ability to, figure that out a little bit more. But for the guys we're truly recruiting, we're trying to vet the academic piece and how committed you are and how much you love football. Obviously, we want team guys. Obviously, we want competitors that want to be a part of a championship caliber football program. Not, guys that understand that, you're going to have to work. You have to earn your spot here. Like, I don't tell any recruiter family that you're going to come in here and play right away.
yeah.
I think that's a slippery slope. I don't get into it. And I make sure my coaches don't. we show them what we have to offer, and all the good things, and we figure out where their part is, and the financial piece and all that they've got to figure out as they go through the process. But those first two are big: the education and the burning desire to play. It's never wavered in our time. That's what we're looking for. And obviously, if you combine that with talented players as you evaluate your film, you're going to find the right people. So, and we do look. I think one of the things that gets overlooked at times is we're looking for growth potential too, right?
Okay.
You can get a high school player who's very capped and he's maxed out in high school. He's going to come to your program and he just doesn't have room to develop. We're okay with looking at a kid who's maybe got some length, but he doesn't have the weight, or height. And we look for guys that, maybe, especially in the big groups, O-line, D-line, who can develop the body in their college years. He might not be a guy you're jumping up and down on film, but you have to be able to look at the film and project him and say, hey, what can he be if he puts the work in and we put the work in with him? What can that look like in 2 or 3 years? If you're just only recruiting guys that can play for you right away, it's going to be, I think you're going to lose a lot of games. But that's what we're looking for, and we're very open and honest, sometimes brutally, and that's how I operate. I don't want to sell something that they think they're getting that they're not, or they didn't feel like it's truthful. I want to be truthful in recruiting, be open and honest, and answer any questions that they have. And I let the recruits and families lead the conversation a lot of times. Hey, what do you want to know? What's important to you? And then I'll ask my questions as we go. But I think our parents and families have enjoyed the honesty and open dialogue.
And then recruiting in the Pennsylvania area, is that a struggle with the amount of schools or the competition? Like you said, you mentioned Penn State, Temple, Villanova. Then you have your Division IIIs that are from Western Pennsylvania to Eastern Pennsylvania. You have your Division IIs that are spread out across the state. Is that a little bit difficult recruiting the state of Pennsylvania, or does that go back to, if we're looking at you and you're also looking at Penn State, Villanova, Temple, wherever, and we may not have you rated as a Villanova, Temple, or Penn State guy, well, then, have at it.
Yeah, I think we run into the Division IIs and other Division IIIs mostly.
Okay.
We might run into a kid who's got to walk on to Robert Morris or one of those NEC schools at times, but I would say we butt heads with the Division IIs, the Eastern, mostly the Eastern guys, the Bloomsburgs, the Lock Havens, the Kutztowns, the East Stroudsburgs, right? Shippensburg at times, Westchester at times, right? So we'll bump into them for sure. And then the other Division III schools, all the way from the MAC conference with Wilkes and Kings and Lyco and Delaware Valley, to the Centennial where we were with Ursinus and Muhlenberg and Dickinson and F&M and those schools. So and then we do recruit New Jersey. That's been a really good state for us. We recruit a little bit of Delaware, so we'll maybe New Jersey state schools here and there. And then we've done a ton of business in my time in Maryland. Okay. Maryland's been great for us. We're only 2 hours from Baltimore. It's pretty much a highway shot. So Maryland's been very productive. We've had some great players from there. We continue to recruit that area heavily for us. That's been a big recruiting ground for us as we've gone. So, and Maryland's a little different, with don't have as many schools in Maryland as Pennsylvania. But you do run into the Pennsylvania ones sometimes down there with those guys. But that's been really good ground for us. And Eastern PA has been really nice. So there's a lot of good football. There's a lot of good football players in the region. You just gotta find the ones that fit you, and you like them and they like you.
Coach, what is your philosophy? And how has it developed? How has it evolved, I guess, over your 20 years?
You mean like program philosophy, coaching philosophy?
Coaching philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's changed a ton. I'm a big big guy on how do we teach. We got to be excellent teachers of football. I think that how we teach, how we go about it. Are we hitting all the types of learners, right? Are we doing the things in our rooms to figure out, some kids they can't learn on the board. I can draw on the board for an hour and I just wasted an hour of that kid's time, right? I got to show him film. Maybe he learns off film. Maybe he learns in walkthrough, so always trying to evaluate, what type of learner is maybe the group, maybe the kid, whatever we have to do there. Class and integrity are big, for us in our philosophy. I think that's a big thing. Family is always a big thing. I learned that at Muhlenberg. I mean, we had a great parents group. We even, some coaches don't talk to parents. We've gone the other way. We've gone, we have great relationships with our parents group. We really try to build a family here. Maybe when I was a young coach, that wasn't as important to me because I wasn't running the program,
Yeah.
But I think here that's important. And then I think the biggest thing is having fun, but I think philosophically, I think the biggest thing that's changed is, when I was a young coach, more was more, man. How do we practice more? How do we hit harder? How do we do more? Are we out there for all the time we can be out there? As I get older, I don't know if that's the way. I don't know if you have to be out there for 3 hours. I don't know if you have to be out there, killing them physically every day. I think sometimes, less is more, especially if you're, depending on your schedule situation, your individual situations, those types of things, with class schedules and stuff. I think I'm more on the quality versus quantity. I think there's time when you have to get the quantity in, but how are you effective in practice? How are you efficient in practice?
Yeah.
I think that's changed for me philosophically over the last number of years. Even when I was a first year head coach to now, it's, I remember, and really what got me there was, I think it was in my third or fourth year as a head coach, we had a gauntlet. I mean, we played like 5 great teams to start the year, and we just couldn't grind them in camp. The old grind them in preseason, or you wouldn't make it. You wouldn't make it through. And so, we got through that, and we went. We were smarter. We went, just more efficient and a little bit less on the players, and we played as good or better than we had been playing. And so it was kind of an eye-opening moment for me. So I think that's the biggest thing. I think my core values, though, of being a great teacher, being a leader, building, making sure young men have the tools to be successful. All those things are the same. I don't think that's changed. For me, I love to see the successes of our players. So how do I help them get there? When we win games and our teams, going nuts and cheering with each other and hugging each other, those are the moments that, that make me love what I do and keep me going. And that's really never changed. That's what got me hooked back in the day. And it's still got me hooked to what we do.
All right, Coach, we've come to I call it the lightning round. It's just we got 5 rapid response questions, and then we have the last one that I've asked everybody. So here we go. If you could live anywhere, where in the world, where would it be and why?
U.S. Florida. Absolute beautiful weather, great town. Love the beach.
Okay. What's the most important lesson that you've learned over your career?
That's a hard one. Double check everything.
Okay.
Double check everyone's work. Double check your own work. Make sure everything's done the way you want it done.
If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
Oh man, probably somewhere in sales, medical sales, something like that.
Best compliment you've ever received?
Best compliment I've ever received. Oh man.
It's a 2-parter too, so you know what the other side's gonna be.
Best compliment I've ever received. my dad being proud of me.
Okay. And on the other side, best insult you've ever received.
Probably when you get parents asking you why you called this or that, and they haven't coached or played football ever. So
it's the backseat driving, and you never drove a car before.
That's exactly right. Those sting a little bit at times.
Coach, the last question that I've asked everybody this season, was there a question you were expecting? And if so, how would you have answered it?
I was expecting from you?
Yes.
I think you hit me on the new landmark thing. That's been a hot topic. Hit me on the two-sport college thing. Not a lot of people asked me that. That was kind of threw me off. That was kind of an unexpected one. I don't know if there was anything you asked that I wasn't ready for.
I do have a follow-up, and that question is, your opening game of the season is against Bridgewater. We happen to, this show is being recorded on the 2nd, August 3rd. Coach Lem is our guest. So I believe this might be coming out right around that game. So we will be, we'll get both ideas from the guys calling the plays. Coach, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time to sit down with us.
It's been my pleasure, man. This has been fun.
I appreciate it, and best of luck this year in the inaugural season with you guys for the Landmark. And I hope this time next year, I'm shooting you a text saying, "Hey, we want to talk about the 23 season, and we'll look at the 24 season."
I love, thanks for what you're doing, promoting this, and if there's anything I can help with in the future, let me know.
I appreciate it, Coach. I will. For those of you sticking around, you know what comes next. It's Overtime with Serenity Brown. I am Carlo Guadagnino. This was Coach Perkovich with the Susquehanna University football team, and we will be right back, Chuckleheads. What's going on, Chuckleheads? Welcome to Overtime with Serenity Brown. I am Serenity Brown. That's Carlo Guadagnino. Something like that. We just finished with the number 22 in the country, Susquehanna University head football coach Tom Perkovich. What'd you think?
Good.
I agree. Vacation was good. Catching up on that. If you're watching on YouTube, appreciate you. Hit the like and subscribe button. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever else you get your podcasts, make sure you hit the little bell so you don't miss anything. Really appreciate you. And make sure you follow all the socials. That's Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok. The only one that's different is the Instagram page. Now, to the whole point of the show. Well, Overtime. Welcome to week 1 of college football. This is the DingoTalk Overtime PickEm. Serenity and I picked 10 games. I'm going to announce the 10 games. We're going to pick our teams. At the end of it, if you get a win, you put a point in the W column. If you get a loss, you put a point in the loss column. And at the end of the season, whoever has more wins than losses is the winner of nothing.
Bragging rights.
Yes. So, without further ado, starting off with Heidelberg versus Hiram. Who you got?
Heidelberg.
I also have Heidelberg. The next game, Utica versus Rochester, the battle of your state.
Utica.
I also have Utica. The next one, Union versus Hilbert.
I chose Hilbert.
And I took Union. Next, we go to the PAC, Westminster versus Grove City.
Westminster.
I also took Westminster. W&J versus St. Vincent.
W&J.
Carnegie Mellon versus Geneva. Number 16, Carnegie Mellon.
Carnegie Mellon.
I also took Carnegie Mellon. And then Lycoming versus Widener. You took Widener.
Yeah, I took
You
Widener.
took Widener.
Full transparency, we chose these before so that way I didn't look like an idiot on camera. We have the board behind the camera. That's what we keep looking at.
Lycoming is who I picked. It's interesting because there are 3 landmark. There's only 2 of the landmark teams that we interviewed on that board. Next up is the University of Wisconsin Whitewater versus John Carroll. Wisconsin Whitewater is the number 11 team. John Carroll is the 19th team in the country. Who you got?
Whitewater.
So I have Whitewater. That was 2 weeks ago's episode. The number 4 Trinity versus number 6 St. John's, which was last week's episode.
I'm going to pick St. John's.
We picked St. John's. And then our game of the week, the team that we had on, number 22 Susquehanna versus Bridgewater. You picked...
I feel bad about this, considering it's this episode, but I picked Bridgewater.
And I took Susquehanna. So, check back next week. We will give you a recap, and then we will obviously be picking 10 more games. I got nothing else.
I got nothing else.
It was a good vacation. Glad to be back, and we'll see you guys next week. So, see you next week, Chuckleheads.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Dingo Talk. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. For more info and to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter @DingoTalk.